So I'd love to actually now. Funny enough, you're talking about that because I was thinking about that in the morning. I'm thinking there are these times where I get caught up in my head. Or I'm interviewing leaders, so I should wear a shirt or I should wear a suit, and then I think about it and I'm like, I can't sit here wearing a suit all day, like interviewing people. And it's kind of the way I look at it is, I feel like I want to be my authentic self. And my authentic self left the corporate world and the government world because I wanted to do things that I really enjoy and be free of the suit.
The jackets outside.
Yeah. Oh. So why are people still married to that idea?
I guess it's people feel they're more respected because the look is obviously the first impression of people before you open your mouth.
Yeah.
It's all about how you look and whatever, and that creates credibility. That creates a little bit of posture for who you are. But it's all fading away. I mean, you see great leaders now, Zuckerbergs and Apples, and if you remember, they all moved into jeans and t-shirts.
I mean,
right?
Even in their biggest presentations, they don't wear. Zuckerberg is half naked all the time now on social media because he's doing jiu-jitsu and I don't know what, and he's like all his pictures now he's just him wearing shorts and no top, and it's so funny. He just challenged Elon Musk.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
for an MMA fight, and that's supposed to be like the new money-making things. Like these people need the money.
It is so. I think it's so unethical, and not thinking about people who are investing in those companies.
Yeah,
what's going to happen to them? They get into a cage and they have a fight, and then afterwards, who loses? Their company's shares is going to drop.
You think so?
Of course it will, right? Oh, he's stronger, right? And those people, poor people that have invested in those companies, they're going to end up losing money.
Wow. I like the way you think because I didn't even think about that. Are you invested at all?
No, I mean, I do have investments, but it is just so egoistic. And knowing the business machine that runs in the States, nothing is really uncalculated, really. So
wouldn't you think their PR machine or whoever is advising them is telling them this is a crazy idea?
Yeah. Nobody has done it before.
It feels like everybody, like they always come out on top, like regardless of what us like mortal humans think. These guys, whatever they do, they end up getting richer.
I wouldn't be surprised if the first fight happens and then it becomes a serial and then they have a rematch and they have another rematch and whatever. And everybody's talking about Meta. Everybody's talking about Elon Musk.
Yeah. Well, everybody is now, whether it's crazy or not.
In publication, there's no bad news.
Yeah. I was in PR for many years.
News,
That was the basic rule we were taught. No PR is bad PR.
Yeah.
Whatever way you can get into the media.
I look at, deep down inside, I truly believe, especially people who are in leadership roles and touching people's lives, they have to be careful what they do and how they do and what they say and how they say it, because it affects a lot of people. And I think, with being a leader and decision maker, that comes with that responsibility that you have to be aware. It touches people. And in many businesses, like ours, for example, it doesn't only touch the employee, it touches their families, it touches their relatives. How many people do you know that are supporting their parents and their families back home in India and in Pakistan and anywhere around the world? So leaders really do have a lot of responsibility towards everything.
How many employees do you have?
Well, currently about 1,047. Yeah.
I have one, and I worry about her all the time.
Sometimes one could be bigger than
Yeah,
1,000.
probably, because you have a lot of interaction. But I mean, how do you manage that? What I know about you and what I've
Yeah.
heard about you is that, and after, like, we've had a conversation already, is that you seem to be somebody that leads with care.
Yeah.
How do you balance that out?
Well, I think it all goes back to who I am and where I come from. And, initially when I was growing up, there was always this debate in the school. What's more important to people's life and success? Is it the school, education, or the family? And I have always defended, with school and education, you get knowledge, you get experience, but the foundation of your personality is yours, first of all, but it's heavily influenced by the family.
Absolutely.
The children, babies start reacting to their mothers, when they were less than 1 year old.
In the womb now,
right?
It's scientifically proven, yeah.
And they learn, this is the job that we have now, looking after our children, making sure that they, you can provide them a lot of money, but you can't make them a good person. Making them a good person is, leading by example and showing them the right direction and everything. And I guess the business world is not much different, and I personally have gone through from an apprentice to become a mechanic, and that's my education. I became a mechanic to fix cars.
That was in Mercedes-Benz, right?
That was in Mercedes-Benz in Germany.
Okay.
And then I moved to Saudi. I lived in Saudi in labor camp, being a mechanic, being a team leader for 7 mechanics. So all these back experiences, historic experiences that I have, obviously leads me to understand people's needs and their ambitions, their drives, because I've been there, right? I know what a mechanic needs. I know what a sales manager needs. And I think, in terms of business, it is a recipe to success. You have to be able to connect to your people. You have to understand them. You have to understand that they have a family to support and they have extended families to support, as we have discussed earlier on. Yeah. And that brings the empathy and that brings the care to people. And then, to be honest, yes, you can be brutal in terms of your decision-making in the business. But when it touches people, you really have to be careful on the decisions that you do.
I just would like to backtrack on something you just said. You left Germany and you went to Saudi.
Yeah.
And you said you lived in labor camps. And what prompted that decision? I mean, just putting the context in mind. I mean, I remember when I left the States, it was pre-internet, so I didn't know what I was going to. But to me, leaving here, going to the States was a step up.
Yeah,
I found out it wasn't, but because I went to Toledo, Ohio, out of everywhere else, it was like in the middle of potato farmland. But when you're going from Germany to Saudi in those times, knowing, you must have known you're going to less than desirable circumstances. Yeah. But what makes you make a decision like that?
Well, there was a step in between. So when my father was teaching in Germany and representing Turkish education. So he got retired, and then I finished my schooling, and then I went back to Turkey. So I did my military service, and I started working for Mercedes-Benz in Istanbul.
Okay. right.
Then there came this opportunity to go to Saudi. And the driver wanting to go to Saudi was basically, it was about career move. It was about experiencing something new. You know, things you do when you're 22 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And language, because, you know, languages have always fascinated me. Today I speak this language conversing with you. I have never taken courses in English.
Really?
When I went to Saudi, I only spoke German and Turkish. So today I can converse with you in Arabic. I cannot read and write. I can converse with you in English as we do now.
But you can read and write.
I can read and write, yes.
I'm sure you can.
And the other thing was, of course, the business and, or job and financial aspect. I always had a dream. I wanted to own my own apartment. And Saudi would have made that possible. So I made this step.
Did you take your family with you?
Well, I wasn't married, so I was on my own. So easy decision making. Went there, lived in labor camp, and then progressed from there further. Came to Dubai 7.5 years later, having met my wife in Saudi, and then came to Dubai as a married person.
Okay. All right. Who did you move also with Mercedes to Dubai?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I moved from, I was 7.5 years with Mercedes in Saudi, 10 years in Dubai with Mercedes in Dubai. And then I moved, it was a career move to Kuwait for 4 years. And I came back to United Arab Emirates, to Abu Dhabi, to Mercedes-Benz. And then, you know, we branched out to other brands.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long journey.
And now how long have you been in Abu Dhabi?
Well, I arrived in Abu Dhabi in 2008.
With Al Masaood?
No, with Mercedes-Benz
again.
And then in 2011, I moved to Al Masaood.
Okay.
For Nissan, Infiniti, and Renault. 2015, I left to go back to Saudi. I signed a contract for General Motors to manage the business in Saudi Arabia for 2 years.
That's with the dealer or with the manufacturer?
With the dealer. Okay. And there were 2 dealers, and I was working with the bigger one.
2 dealers?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Saudi Arabia was different.
We don't understand that model here.
Yeah, well, they had at one time they had over 8 dealers in the country. You know, General Motors is big in Saudi Arabia.
And Saudi is bigger than here.
Saudi is bigger, and also the demographics and it's different to Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So, and then I came back 2 years later to Al Masaood again. So that was the new era of Al Masaood. The structures had changed, and we have picked up really strong right from the beginning in 2017.
So what do you do for them, just to be clear?
I'm the CEO of automotive. So we represent 3 car brands, Nissan, Infiniti, and Renault. And we have also managed to create additional revenue streams with new businesses that are closely tied to our core business, with leasing and with rental, with multi-brand functions. So,
interesting. You said 3 brands. So Nissan and Infiniti officially call themselves separate brands?
As a brand, they are separate. Yes. As a company, they are one.
Okay.
So it is Nissan Motor Company.
Yes.
That has to. Yes. It's very similar to Toyota and Lexus, or Hyundai and
Yeah, I was
Genesis.
thinking across that
Yeah.
board like that.
Yes,
Yeah, but it's interesting that they actually officially call themselves as completely
They are
separate brands.
brands. Yeah.
So when you're managing them as completely separate brands, completely separate teams
Yes.
that do not compete with each other. They're just separate.
Yes.
They have different segments
And
of the
they
market.
they,
and
they
everything.
they operate in different segments.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's clear. Should have known that, but I've been out of the branding world for a while.
Well, I don't know about podcasting though, or publication.
Okay, so when did you start having kids?
Well, soon after we arrived in we got married while we were living in Saudi, and then we arrived in Dubai. We're living in Sharjah, and 3 years later, our little boy came to life, who is now 27.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, and so we have 2 kids, and both are Dubai babies. So
Okay, all right.
they were both born while we were living in Dubai.
Okay, what are they doing now?
Our son has finished his studies in Canada, where his mother comes from, and picked up a job and did his own business.
Cool.
And then the blood pools.
Dubai kid.
He's back to Dubai. Now he's working in Dubai.
He's here. All right.
Yes,
awesome.
he came back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How does that feel?
Well, fantastic, because for us as a family, like everybody else, there's this evolution, right? You're alone. You are with a big family of your sisters and siblings and mother and father, and then you go away your own. Then you're alone, and then you grow your own little tribe, right? And then you meet someone wonderful, and you marry, and then you get kids, and then all of a sudden they started disappearing. Because they go to university.
My daughter is 5, and I'm just thinking about that. I'm like, no. She was with her grandmother for a week in Abu Dhabi, and I was like counting the hours. Like, when is she gonna come home? I call her. She's like, "Are you coming home?" No, I think I'm gonna stay one more day, because over there the rules are a lot more relaxed. So we have this agreement that once she crosses the border into Abu Dhabi to her grandparents' house, whatever their rules are, it's their rules. So there's no conflict. And when she comes home, she understands the rules. She's 5. She's pretty brilliant at it. She goes back and forth pretty quickly. So when she's over there, everything is allowed.
I know.
You can do whatever you want.
I know that. We probably come from a similar family background. My father always used to say, listen, you want to discipline your child, do it in your house, not in my house. Here, they do whatever.
And you tell them, you remember how you used to discipline me, though, and now all the rules don't apply to them.
Yeah, but they then respond saying, they are not my responsibility. You were my responsibility. They are your responsibility. I love them. I hug them. I kiss them the moment they start crying. It's yours.
Yeah. Hello, come pick them up. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, so, they're good. And our daughter is in the university now. And she has also chosen the same university in Vancouver as her brother.
Okay.
So she's doing her studies.
Okay.
I'm very fortunate of when it comes to family and my wife and my kids.
Amazing.
Yeah, everything has turned out. Touch wood.
Oh, alhamdulillah. So throughout Saudi onwards, I'm guessing your wife was trekking with you everywhere you went. How did she deal with that? How did she cope with that? Were you guys in agreement? Was there somehow an evolution where you guys had to kind of come to an agreement on how things are going to go, or was it just reaction, or how did she cope with that?
Well, I mean, you know that well. Marriage is all about compromises, right?
Yeah.
And taking care of each other and understanding each other, and be accommodating to the needs of everyone. So, my philosophy has always been, I didn't want to go anywhere. There has been opportunities where I could have gone and maybe made more money or had bigger positions throughout my career, but I would have to go alone, and that was never a question for me. So I always wanted the family to be together, and there has been some countries that I was assigned to, where my wife not necessarily wanted to go. But we then made a compromise saying, okay, we'll do that for 2 years and, we'll leave whenever you feel uncomfortable. Or we don't go at all if you don't want to go, right? And I think, when you put somebody in the corner and impose things are not going to go very easy and very comfortable. But when the explanation is given, the reasoning given, and the choice given to the person, then it becomes a lot more easier. And that's, in business life, not much different. It's all about ownership. People take decisions. When they're involved in decision making, when they have a say in decision, they own the decision and they create success of it. If you keep telling people what to do, they really don't own it. They do it because you said so.
Interesting.
And that's similar for the family. So at the end, we have always moved together. And we have always taken the decisions together wherever we go. And I must say there was just one incident where there was a little bit of difference of opinion, should we make the move or not. And then we agreed we will do 2 years, and then we ended up 4 years there. So she was happy, family was happy, I was happy.
Did you use the "I told you so"?
I didn't. What we had agreed was in 2 years, if she hates it, we're gonna move whenever she hates it anyways, right? Yeah. And if she holds on to it, after 2 years we'll sit down and talk. Yeah. And that sit down and talk conversation never happened. Okay. So that means it wasn't necessary for her as well as for me. Yeah. Not to bring it up. And then we carried on staying another 2 years.
So you mentioned that this is something that you also, the kind of the philosophy you transfer onto corporate leadership.
Yes. Very much.
Yeah, talk to us about that a little bit.
Let me give you an example of 2017. Right? 2017, when I came back, there was a new board, new structure in the company. We all put our hands together to transform the company from a pure family business to more corporatized organization. And then we had to make a plan. And that plan was our 5-year strategy plan. And then there was the thought about, everybody goes and calls in the big boys to make a strategy for them. And I didn't want to do that. And I thought we had enough knowledge and experience and capability within our teams. Yeah. And I'm also very, very firm believer of what I said earlier on. We have to have people's voices heard, their inputs taken into consideration in order to generate ownership. So that's what we did. So we created our Project Falcon in 2017 within our team. Project Falcon.
Okay, cool.
Yes, Project Falcon. I can tell you a little bit more about that if you like later
love to
on.
Hear that. Yeah.
But the strategy plan was so powerful that everybody's input, everybody's ambition, everybody's for their businesses, where they want to go, how they want to go over the next 5 years was very clearly laid out. And it was detailed, it was put into, objectives and KPIs and everything else. Honestly, 4 years later, we applied to a Sheikh Khalifa Excellency Award. And one of the things that we had to display to the assessors was our strategy. And actually, for 5 years, we haven't really looked at our strategy when we were taking decisions on business, because it was in everybody's minds what they wanted to. It was their baby, right?
Yeah.
Because normally when you create a strategy document, or especially if it is created by somebody else, right? So there's a document, right? And then every time you want to take a decision on something important, you take a look at it and say, is it in scope, out scope, or, is it part of our plan or not? Our team never had to do that because they laid it out themselves. And then 4 years later, when we looked at it, we actually have ticked every objective that we wanted to do on time, ahead of time. And there was nothing missing. After 4 years, we had completed our objectives for 5 years, automatically. And that tells you the power of ownership. And the ownership only comes when people have something to say to it. I know companies, Arsalan, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you.
Please.
I know companies that keep bringing in top 5 in the world. 2 years later, this company, because it doesn't work. 3 years later, they bring somebody else and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because people who are supposed to execute are not involved. Or they are involved just by their names included in there, but not their hearts and minds, thinking this is my business, this is my sales and marketing operation. Next year, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, this is how we're going to grow. And then you understand what I mean? This
Absolutely.
If you don't have that, they'll just take a look at that list, what they are supposed to, and they'll tick the boxes. If there was anything extra that they could do, they wouldn't even think about it, because it's all about ticking boxes. So when it's their own baby, when it's their own business, when it's their own decision that was put in this document, then they take a look at it and then they say, okay, we have done this now. What's next? It's not going to wait until the 5-year strategy session is finished in order to develop something new. They just carry on.
Let's just go.
Right? So the power of that.
I love this. Thank you so much, because my career and wherever I was has always depended on the big 5 to come and tell us what to do. And I understood that in the early days when we needed it, because we didn't have the local acumen to be able to develop it.
Yeah.
But then over the times, I kept thinking, we have the minds, we have the people that are passionate about what we're doing and about, the organization and about its position within the country and how it's supposed to get back, whatever it is, whatever organization it was. And it just never seemed to change. There was always this idea that we're going to get somebody from outside to come and tell us what we need to do on the inside.
Yeah.
And these people on the outside, most of the time, weren't even residing here. So, they don't really understand the geopolitical situation. They don't understand the politics. They don't understand the traditions. They don't understand the religion, which governs a lot of things and a lot of hearts and minds, because that's what you need to change first, right?
Yes.
And I never understood that. And I'm so happy that you mentioned Project Falcon now, which is something I'm gonna ask you to talk about, since you said you're ready to, because I guess it's an example that needs to be taught.
Yeah.
Not only at the podcast level, but maybe even at university level here, for people to understand that strategies and plans that are developed internally,
yes,
with buy-in, with passion, with empowerment,
Yeah.
really do work and really have results, because this is a case study now. It's not just a philosophy. It's a philosophy with an application and results. And you guys have had amazing results. So talk to us about Project Falcon and how it developed. And
this is obviously, everything you have mentioned about the strategy, the empowerment, they are all part of it, right? It's not one thing that's going to make things happen. There's a lot of combination of things. And the foundation of all is people. It's the people, it's the colleagues that works with us and share the ambition and wanting to go the extra mile and wanting to create some legacy. And that's what everything has started with. So Project Falcon, our company never had any short-term, mid-term, long-term plans in the past. But I know, and you know, and everybody knows, you need to create a path. And, you need to draw a line and say, this is where I want to go. Because without that, you don't have an aim.
Yeah.
You go here, and then you go there, and then you go there, and then you're lost. Right?
Like a lost flock.
And it's purely left to luck, your successes, or if you achieve any, or market drives it, right? There's no, like last year, there's no cars in the market. Everybody's selling well. Yeah, okay, is this a magic? It's not a magic, because we have no cars available. So consumers have to buy cars. So we had to create a strategy. And Falcon, I need to tell you a story about why Falcon, right? Why Falcon? Falcon has too many things. So our forefathers in Masaood have been tremendously successful and visionary people. They have created and made these brands, best there is, over a period of time. But the sector is changing, the environment is changing, and we had to make a plan. And one of the things that used to work in the past was, who do you know, and connections and whatever. These are all slowly fading away, right? Because the business environment is changing. Our teams, let me give you a phrase, right? Where we are coming from. So in my first term, when I was with Masaood, we would ask him, how's business? So I'm doing my best. How is it? Is everything okay? No, I'm doing my best, But that best was never described what it is. What is best, right? So for someone, best was I come on time to work, and I, attend to my table and talk to my team. For somebody else, I sold so many cars, or I satisfied so many customers, but it was never defined, right? So the culture in Masaood Automobiles in the past was more of a farming culture. There are two types of cultures in business. There are hunters and farmers. They were farmers. So they were farming from all the legacies that the forefathers has left, waiting for customers to come and provide them with services that customers need. But the environment was changing. We needed to become hunters. We needed to go out and get business. Because otherwise, we were stagnant. And when you're stagnant in the business, you're doomed to die.
Yeah, it's the comfort
sooner
zone.
or later.
The
right?
dreaded comfort zone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Falcon is an icon for hunting, right?
I see. Okay.
What Falcon characterizes are the things that we didn't have in our organization. We didn't have speed. Falcon is the fastest bird in the world, right? We didn't have strength. So because the decision-making was made somewhere else, everybody would crumble as soon as, a little difficulty comes from somewhere. So we needed to become strong. And we needed to be agile, right? We needed to have a foresight. You see what Falcon does, it flies high and then it picks up, what he needs. And then with speed and strength, and then it goes down and gets what he needs. So that was very powerful symbol for us to go after, because they were not what we were. And this is what we needed to become. So that's one part. The second part, Falcon is an icon for Abu Dhabi, for United Arab Emirates.
Yes.
We have falconry, falcon competitions. So it's very cultural, right? And it has also a financial perspective. Not only that good falcons are very expensive, very valuable. Behind every United Arab Emirates banknote, there's a falcon.
Mm-hmm. For a reason.
There's a parrot. Because it's part of the culture, right?
Yeah.
So a combination of all this made us to decide Falcon is the one, Project Falcon.
And that name and everything was developed also internally?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have developed the name of the project. We have developed our values. We have developed our vision statement. We have developed our own purpose. And they were all developed within the team. So nothing was dictated. We just discussed. So we had a full day outing with the core team and discussing these three very important aspects, because everything cascades down from there.
Absolutely.
And our vision statement says the whole thing. We are embracing heritage. So we need to be true to who we are. We need to remain there. We should not leave this, what makes us who we are, right? And we should continue and focus on delivering excellence and innovation. Because only excellence and innovation is going to get us to places where we aspire to. So that was the beginning of it. And then everybody started working on their businesses and then detailing all the plans that they have. And we had various sessions. And then we developed it, and then we rolled it out in 2018, January the 1st. We kept it alive. We had multiple sessions. One thing about me, I love celebrating. I love success.
Okay.
Success is what drives me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share that with our teams. Every time we created a success, we would celebrate, we would get together and because they are very essential. They are like fuel in the car. You have to refuel it. Project Falcon had to be also refueled. Celebrate, get together. And the result speaks for itself. We have now, last week I got to know that we have been awarded with Infinity and Nissan Global Awards.
Wow.
For our performances in the last fiscal year.
Okay.
It's the first time that we won both together. And we won many orders throughout the journey. But they are very symbolic. They are very proud, but they are the outcome of what we do.
It's amazing to me when organizations like yourself win these awards on a global scale, thinking about scale
Yeah.
and how small Abu Dhabi is,
Yes.
let alone like the UAE is, let
Yeah.
alone Abu Dhabi. And then when you say that a city like that like didn't even officially properly exist
Yes.
only 50 years ago,
Yes.
can win these awards, it speaks volumes to projects like Project Falcon and how powerful it can be, especially coming off of the years you were talking about, you know, COVID and post-COVID and lack of supply and lack of chips and lack of I don't know what that everybody was talking about that was not allowing me to buy a car.
Yeah.
So especially when you're talking about these times when there was serious crisis mode.
Yes.
How does a strategy like that get you out of crisis?
I think number one thing is culture, right? You know, together with the strategy, the culture has changed, and of course we also had to change some of our colleagues during the process because we needed competencies that we didn't have within our teams, and you know the difficult periods of COVID and chips and supply chain disruptions and everything else was all overcome by being proactive, by being resilient, by being one step ahead of competition. You know, we are competing at the end of the day. You know, I was reading something to my wife last night, and she said, "Everyone reads like you just had a match and you won a match." It is competition. You know, at the end of the day, we compete. If we don't do well, right? We have so many people, and you know, when I say culture, I want to connect this actually to our earlier conversation as well. We have responsibility as leaders, as decision makers, influencing people's lives. For everybody that works with us, but the extended families. And these successes that we generate, everybody benefits. So, you know, when we talk about how did we overcome those difficult periods, this is when people's hearts and minds are in the business, and then they foresee things, they proactively do things, and we have developed an amazing that I have never experienced in my past. We have developed an organization that has tremendous speed in decision making. Mm-hmm. So in decision making is in organization, of course you have to have the checks and balances in place, and you have to do due diligences and everything else. These are usually done very quickly in all organizations. It's just a decision, right? And we have shortened that by empowering our people. Whereas it's very rare in family businesses, private family businesses, that this is so, because everybody wants to have a say in it, right? Knowingly, unknowingly, but they do want to have a say, and that drags. In corporate life, where you come from, it's even more difficult to get speed achieved. But at the end of the day, we are in retail business. Retail is all about speed. You go to a shoe store and you look around and you ask for some information and some decisions to be made, and you don't get it. You walk next door and you buy it from there, right? Yeah. Because you don't have to buy from there. And products, yes, Nissan, Infiniti, Renault has fantastic products, but our product is not cars. We don't produce cars as Al Masaood. Our product is the way we serve our customers, the way we provide solutions for their transportation, for their mobility. And how convenient we make this for the customers. We don't build the cars. we have very little influence. We have some influence, especially for icons like petrol. We have influence in the way cars should look and what it should have and whatever. But in general, it's the factory that does it. Right? So, and I think knowing all these factors of having the speed in our organization is a big one that allows us to be ahead of the competition every time. We can turn around a program in 2 days, and it's out there. And these are quite important things. And you know, as we were saying earlier on, it's not one thing. It's not only strategy. It's not only good people. It's not only good plan. It's not only speed. It's not only empowerment. It's a combination of all this that creates success.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. That's I think a lot of what you're saying should really resonate with people in how we move to a modern way of looking at organizations, and specifically in this region, because we need to start believing that we can do it ourselves. We need to start believing that we have enough intellect and brain power to be developing these things internally.
Yeah.
And if you don't, quite frankly, then you're not hiring the right people. That's what I believe. You know, if you cannot develop these strategies internally, then there's something off. Yes, you can get maybe some expertise to come, you know, check and give you recommendations and, you know, advice on something that you've built internally, and that's okay. You know, I understand that. But essentially, the bulk of it, I think, should be produced internally, because you know your business, and you should know your business more than anyone else.
It's true. That's true. You know what consultants do, right?
Yeah.
So they come into your organization and they talk to Arsalan and say, Arsalan, what's the issue with your program? Where do you think the issues are? And Arsalan says, because he's in the business and he lives it every day. He says, yeah, you know, my producer has this and this, and I have obstacle here and there, and I'm finding it difficult to get decisions made, and I don't have enough funding to bring in this, you know, beautiful products that's gonna really, really enhance our portfolio and everything else. So you tell all these stories, and they put it in the paper, in a beautiful paper, beautiful presentation. They sell it to your boss, because your boss is not listening to you. And they pay him. And then because they pay him, they have to listen to him. Okay? So majority of that, and I have been in many different organizations where, you know, consult. Don't trash them. They do add value.
Of course.
Right? But for various different reasons, if you have got the right people in your organization, you should be able to do yourself.
Yes.
You should be able to identify where your sticking points are, where your shortfalls are, and those people that are telling you what the shortfalls are, they also know the remedy.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
They just have to be asked.
Yes, yes.
How do we do that?
I mean, there's also a problem when you disseminate that information. So you've gotten what the consultants are telling you, and now you're giving people solutions that they've already known. This must cause some kind of negative feelings about what's happening with that. You know, mistrust, lack of hearing or listening or understanding that, you know, you have people within that can create a solution. And then how are these people going to put this plan to action when they're actually disgruntled and they're actually unhappy at the fact that you didn't listen to them in the first place? And it creates a lot of frustration. I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
Creates a lot of frustration. You look at this document. It happened to me. You look at this document
It's
and you think,
mine.
I've known already and I've said this. And a lot of the times they interviewed me, I told them this is what the solution is. You know, now they took what I'm saying, they packaged it, they gave it to my boss, and my boss signed it. Now my boss is telling me, do what these guys are saying. But I'm
Actually, I'm the originator, right?
Yeah, it's like word by word what I said, right? And it causes this negative feeling about what's happening, but also for you to take action on it.
Yeah.
You're not as you said, not as passionate, not as driven, not as bought in, that it creates problems.
Yes.
And that could create problems all the way down the line because, you know, as a middle management person, I'm getting my information from the people under me. And then when I'm going to have to tell them, this is what the consultant said, and they're like, we said it. And that kind of cascades down to the lowest denominator.
It's very, very important in organization, not only in organizations, Arsalan, it's also in any relationship that you have, even within the family. You have to give the credit to people who deserves it. If you fail, if you give the credit to the wrong places, you're creating a massive issue. You're creating inner resignation of people who are ready to contribute and they won't contribute anymore because they haven't been recognized, right? And that's in the family the same. That's between brothers and sisters. And, you know, majority of the family crisis happens because brothers and sisters believe that their parents are giving more attention or credit to here, not enough there. That's exactly the same thing in the business, right?
But why do people don't understand that? Because there's a lot of people that, I guess this is kind of the title of authenticity, how you bring yourself throughout your life in different situations, whether it's family, friendship, even people you randomly see down the street, colleagues and work, and as a leader at work, that you bring the same philosophy in every single thing you do, or else you're going to be somebody that is dishonest or unauthentic, let's call it, right? But why do people do that? Why do people lead a certain way in their life and then come to work and lead in a way that is completely egoistic and opposing to what you just said?
There are multiple reasons, in my opinion. One, it's obviously the ego. You know, egos of people are quite poisonous to themselves, but also to the business and to their surroundings. And then there's the personality part. There's demographics, you know, the area where we operate. And I'll give you a couple of examples of this, right? How things are not, I don't want to say not done right, but done differently that I wouldn't do, right? So in the past, for example, you know, when I mentioned earlier on that I thrive on success. You know, when we are successful, I just want to, what's next, right?
I want to win.
You get pumped up, you know. Like, you know, Wimbledon is happening today, right? Yeah. You know, you got the first round and I say, yes, the next one, second round, whatever. But it doesn't end because success doesn't have end. Success is a journey.
Yeah.
And you need to celebrate that. So in one of my previous roles, we won a global award, right? International, the best recognition that the manufacturer has. And then my boss at that time, who was a slightly older gentleman, and he said, I said, well, you know, let's go and let's get it, let's
throw a party.
Publish it, let's throw a party. I said, no, Irfan, don't do that. I said, why? He said, look, and he was a very generous person, right? So he couldn't say no to anybody. He says, when people know that we are so successful, they're gonna come more often to me and ask me for things, and I cannot refuse. I have to keep giving people.
That's hilarious.
Just keep it.
Yeah.
So it's different, right? It's not good or bad. It's different. But achievements like this means wall to the team because they're all part of it. They all want to celebrate. They all want to be told, yes, you were part of this. Yes, you can put this in your CV and make yourself more marketable. Yes, this is going to improve your desirability of people that are looking for someone like you, right? Yes, you deserve to, have a belly dancer and a five-star hotel and a dinner with us, everybody together. People are different. That's one part. Two, why they don't do it? A lot of people are insecure in their jobs. They may look like they're the well-made persons and they are on top of the food chain and whatever, but they are insecure. They actually don't want people that are smart, that are eager and ambitious below them. They want people that do what they say. And that was one thing in 2017 when I came back. I repeatedly mentioned it in nearly every occasion to my leadership team. Do not say to your team, do as I say. Because when you make that statement, you're killing all their aspirations to, in a way, to speak up and to propose and to do something. And then it's only you, Arsalan, as the chief of that tribe. You're the only one that can create something. When you have hundreds of people, hundreds of minds that could create things, you block that because you want to keep your seat, because you want everybody to follow what you do. And leaders like this are a major handicap to any organization. Its growth, its ambition. Because there's no way that one Arsalan or one Irfan can know everything and can create as much as 100 or 1,000 people can. These are insecurities on people. Some of them may be cultural. There are some cultures that are very suppressive. They look up to their leaders and don't do anything unless he says so. But major part is individual insecurities of people's, we are all expatriates. If I lose my job, then what? If the guy that reports to me comes up with great ideas, and I'm in his shadow all of a sudden, maybe the company is going to then decide, well, he makes half of his salary and he brings all these ideas. Maybe we change. Companies never react like this. But that's the fear of people because they are insecure. They are insecure and then they bring in people that are yes men. And they are insecure, that's why they tell people, do as I say. Otherwise, right? So, with all these very obvious things that create success, why is not everybody doing it, right? That's multiple reasons, Arsalan. It's the people, it's the ego, it's the culture, it's you name it, right?
How did you overcome your ego? Everybody has an ego. I mean, it's part of our survival mechanism. But how did you overcome it in your journey of leadership?
Look, I have an ego. So that's everybody else, right? I absolutely do. There comes moments in time when you think, listen, yes, you have got the ego. The moment you understand that you're actually a part of a team, Yes, you're a leader. Yes, you guide and you coach. You basically, I see my role, for example, not necessarily to create things, because I personally am not very creative person. I'm very conservative. Conservative people don't create innovations, right? But you need, in an organization, you need different personalities.
Balance.
You need to balance that. You need these high flyers, we call them the eagles, that will go. And then you have the bulls in the china shop. They want to do too much, and then they break a lot of things, right? And then you have this people who, very carefully study everything in the back office and look into data and analyze it, and that, right? So you need all of them in your organization, right? And my job is to guide them in the right direction due to my experience and previous experiences, but also to enable them to do what they do. And this is, for example, the empowerment part. This is the speed part. This is the encouragement that you gave them. This is the celebrations that you need to have with them, and create that team. And then once you know you need a team, you keep preaching everybody, they need to be a team, and you still have an ego and want to tell everybody, do as I say, you can't do that, right? And I think this ego part, dampening the ego will never disappear. All successful people have egos, otherwise they wouldn't be there. Because it's one of the things that leads them there, right? But dampening of this and keeping it in check in an acceptable level comes with maturity, with stability, with proven success. The more successful you are, the more humbler you will get, because you don't have anything to prove. You want your team to shine. Because when they shine, you shine anyways. They are your team members. You are one team, right? We keep saying one team. So if you're a managing director of a brand is highly, highly successful, right? A lot of people with egos will dampen that, right? And because they want themselves to be in front. And actually, you need to encourage those. And you can't do this when you're 30 years old because you want to, right? So it comes with time and maturity and understanding. And also insecurities that you may have in your personality, in your professional personality conducts over years, goes away. Unless you're still not creative, you're still vulnerable, you're still... I'm going to tell you something about that leads to this. So a human race, gets born, is part of the family, is getting education. And if you're a man from Turkey, you have to go to military service. It's mandatory. That's in between. And then you come, and then you have finished your studies, and then you start looking for a job, right? So you're in the middle of your 20s, beginning 20s, middle of 20s. In 20s, you need to find a job and make some money, right? In your 30s are the time when you want to really enhance your career and grow. And these are all periods, the 20s and 30s. Empathy is not part of this game.
Yeah, it's not high. It's not high on your.
It's not in the agenda, right? Yeah. It's money. It's the you're pushing it, and when you get to your 40s, now you are maturing. Now I'm talking about an ideal scenario of a successful
Yes,
person,
yes,
right?
yes.
Now you're in your 40s. Now you want to reach the top. So you continue with this, but now you realize you can't do it alone because you're now a manager or general manager or something. So you rely on your people. You have to start understanding your people. You have to start understanding how they work, what they work. And they all are different. Every person has a different driver, different personality, different priorities, sensitivities, culturally, religious, whatever you name it. They're all different, right? So now you have to become a master of yourself in managing people or working with people or creating teams. In your 50s, you have done it, you have done it. You haven't done it, it's going to become a lot more difficult to do it. If you have done it, then you start getting the fruits of all the successes that they have, the journey that they have gone through, right? And that then becomes the time for you to be a leader. Some people are great at 40 or 35.
Yeah.
Some people are genius. They are great leaders at 30. I'm talking about mainstream, right?
Yes.
So in your 50s, you're a leader. What does a leader mean? What does a leader need to do and everything else? The leader is a servant of the people that he represents, right? So he needs to look after his people. He needs to make sure that they progress. He needs to create. Because when he gets to his 60s, he wants to retire. Do you think that a great leader, after he retires at 60, for example, is going to be happy for the remaining of his life, looking at the pictures and seeing himself, oh, I was this, and I was this, and I was... You remember the ego part, right? But just imagine he has created like 4 or 5 fantastic leaders that are active. He made them. He encouraged them. He helped them. And they are still up there, out there, climbing. How wonderful is that for someone who looks back? And my father was a teacher. He's retired now. He's 81 years old. He feels pride in people that he has taught who has become this and who has become that and who has become this. Who are we as leaders? Exactly the same. We don't necessarily teach people what to do on every step of the way, but we encourage them. We groom them for the next thing. And if this next thing happens in our organization, that's fantastic. But we are one organization that's so small. The business life is big. If they opt to go somewhere else to something better, we should encourage them. Right? So, long story short, leadership is not an easy thing to do. Leadership is not sitting up there and then telling people what to do. That's not a leader.
Wow, this is a masterclass right here. Thank you. I was so engrossed in what you're saying. I don't even know what my next question is.
I'll tell you something about myself.
Tell me something. Thank you. You just saved
because
me.
I think we touched about this, and this is a little bit, it actually touches a lot of people in this part of the world where we live, and it also touches a little bit of stereotypes, things happening in the West, and it's about and. Sometimes people ask me and then say, Irfan, you were a mechanic, you were an apprentice, here. Why? What did drive? And I look back And the older I get, the more ideas I have about myself. Most of them are probably, fiction. But there is some element of truth. People, I grew up in Germany, right? Between my ages 13 to 20 or so. When you're a foreigner, or let's say being a foreigner somewhere working and being an immigrant are similar, right? Not the same, because for a foreigner working there is not necessarily, he still has a home to go to. Immigrant he has burned all the bridges and then he needs to do it. This type of people are extremely, extremely motivated on survival and success, because they are in an environment where they have to be better than the natives of that country in order to get what they want. Same doesn't cut it. Naturally so. If you were a German and you were in Germany and you were a mechanic, and I was Turkish in Germany, a mechanic, or a Syrian refugee in Germany, a mechanic, and there comes a position open, and all three of them are equally good, who would be employed? The German, of course, because he's native, right? So the foreigners and immigrants, they are motivated, and especially immigrants. It's about survival, right? So they become, most of them, become extremely successful in what they do, because they don't have comfort zone to sit back on. So I'm giving you an example of Germany because I grew up there. Today, Turkey is the same, with 4 million Syrians and I don't know how many other nationalities. It's the same scenario, right? Turkish person falls into their comfort zone. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. And then Muhammad comes from one of those countries and he just needs to survive. So he does whatever needs to be done. And that drives. And an example of this is, look at the most sold immigrant countries. America, Canada, Australia are the top 3, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to go there. They're all immigrant countries. Mm-hmm. They're all made by people who run away or who had to leave their countries and find a new life.
Yep.
And they made those countries to the top of the world. Who are they? They're immigrants. Look at Dubai, Abu Dhabi. Yes, there is a tremendous leadership that many countries don't have around the world. Visionary people, very strong, and tied to their national, to their citizens, and doing everything for them. But 80% of Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Northern Emirates, United Arab Emirates, similarly in Qatar and Saudi and whatever, it's expatriates. These are immigrants. And they also contribute tremendously to the success of this countries. So why are they successful? Because, and maybe that's me as well, having to grow up in Germany and having to be more successful than anybody else. My brother says, I'm sick. He says, you're sick, you're perfectionist, this is a disease in your head, you want to be better and better and better. That's going to kill you one day, right? It may. And I think, people needs to do what makes them happy. And again, some people ask, when are you going to retire? The moment I get up in the morning and think, oh God, I have to work today again, that's the last day at work. Because I really, really enjoy what I do. And there is no reason for anybody to live what they love unless there's some other reason. So the immigration was part of it. And then, loving what you do. And I think it all starts with the need. You need to survival, existence, need. And then it progresses into, you really love what you do, and then you excel. And that's why people should never get stuck with things that they don't really enjoy or don't do it, because they will never excel. They'll never go to places. They'll only excel in places when they think, yes, that's the one. In the morning you get up and then you think, oh, what am I going to do today? Oh, I got this, I got that. And the moment you're in the mindset, oh God, I have to work today, don't go.
Absolutely. I think, that what you just said right now, the moment you're not having fun, don't go, contradicts the state of survival.
Yeah.
And from working with people that are mostly in this phase of their lives where they have been surviving for so long and have been pushed by the energy of survival, which is a negative energy, because yes, it's a very powerful, the most powerful state we can be in is the state of survival in terms of the energy we get out of it. But it's not intrinsically a sustainable, pure, positive energy.
Yes.
It's a very negative energy because, it's fight or flight. It's dependent on keeping you surviving, but what it doesn't allow you to see is how to thrive, how to live positively, how to love what you do, how to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I find that once you work with people on that switch, to switch them for survival to thrival, is when things magically start to improve and happen. Have you had to do that? Because obviously from what you're saying, you're saying I was driven by the energy of survival, which I can completely relate to because I was born and raised here and I'm not from here, and I understand that kind of psychology. And before we started, I told you I am the definition of an ultra high performer, which isn't something I say with absolute pride, because there was a point in my life where I realized I really need to change that way of thinking. How do you advise people that are trying to make that switch to finally just relax and let go and try to switch that energy from survival to thrival, in your experience, or how you did it, or I'm sure you've experienced many people go through that.
Having given this example, I didn't have to go through survival because we were an immigrant, and we were fortunate that my father had a good job and everything. Survival was, for me, not the issue. The survival is mainly on immigrants, right? And the switch from survival is, I guess, once people find their feet and get a job, and then the survival part is gone, and then it's about how do you progress further. For me, I guess when you get elevated or in your job and get promotions after, you remember the 10-year blocks I was talking about? When you pass that 50 barriers, that's when the need and the survival usually stops. But if people haven't been able to make it, not everybody becomes a CEO. Not everybody becomes and mainly also not part of their fault. Circumstances, opportunities. You got to remember, your success. 50% of your success is luck.
Yeah, but also
The
supply and
time,
demand.
the people.
I mean,
the timing, the people, and surrounding, who you meet, and what opportunities and whatever. The other 50% is this luck that you generate. That luck by working hard and making attempts and everything else. And so, not everybody has the opportunity to excel. Like very small percentage of population. And how do they cope with the situation? I think one of the main drivers is family and its well-being, its kids, and to look after them. Because these are fundamentally important for every parent to think about, right? So the motivation to carry, I haven't been able to make it. I haven't been able to make it. I didn't get a promotion for 3 years. What do I do now? And you're absolutely right. He may wake up in the morning and say, God, I have to go to work today. But then he picks himself up and goes because of the need.
Yes.
Because he hasn't passed the need. The needs section gets only passed if you have made it, right? In traditional way, 50, right? So if you have 50 and you have got the job and you have got the earnings, and because, promotions, when we talk about progressing, you're also talking about money. So you don't progress with the same remuneration package and whatever. So with your job, your earnings increase, your standard of living increase, your stress level increase, on the negative side.
Yes.
So it is very, very individualistic. And, all I can say is everybody is individually wired differently. Some people, they're hungry and they need success and they need promotion. They need to go places. And some people who doesn't make it and deals with all the other needs that's continuing for their families or for their kids and everything else. That's what motivates them.
I just kind of had a moment where I was thinking, we were describing. Let's be honest. The majority of leaders that are have reached a position of senior leadership and rule through fear and through ego and all of that. I work with a lot of these people.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people I've started realizing is they've reached that level and they've pushed themselves to that level through this energy of survival and trying to make it and the ego and all of these things we've been talking together. But the majority of them come and see me because they're extremely chronically stressed and they're actually not enjoying it.
Yeah.
I mean, you look like somebody that's really enjoying what he's doing. But to be very honest with you, I can, from the hundreds of people I've worked with, I can guarantee you that it's a very small percentage. And you know that, that feel that way at the top.
Yes.
Most people describe the top as very lonely, as very stressful, as, they haven't seen their families, they haven't joined their kids, they haven't, all of these things that you're just now talking about, they don't have. Because I believe we are taught to climb up the ladder of success in a way that needs to be redefined.
Yes.
Because especially, let's face it, as men. Because as men, what we are seeing now statistically is the number of suicide of men going up really high. Like the numbers are insane. The amount of diseases and mental disorders and things that we're hearing about on a daily basis. Big leaders that, you know, commit suicide and stuff like that, that you won't even imagine that these people would be unhappy because they've reached a certain level of success. My specialization is chronic stress because of what I went through, and I can speak to that volumes throughout my career. I had a very, like, a rocket career where I just rocketed, and it just kind of, like, at some point just crashed and burnt. And it's because the law of physics and nature says if you go up really quickly, you kind of go down very quickly. But nobody told me that. You know, I was flying. And the reason why I want to have this conversation is because there are a lot of people listening to you and thinking, this guy looks happy. You know, he looks content. The things he's saying are ideal, but they cannot apply to me. Right? I have to lead this way. I can't. What if, exactly what you said, what if I relax a little bit and I become vulnerable and I, you know, consult with my team and whatever? They're going to knock me off, or they're going to think I'm weak, or they're going to think all of these things. And to be honest with you, this is the purpose of this podcast. It's called Stress to Joy for a reason. It's because people like you that come and sit here are not very common. You're not by any means the ideal, I'm sorry, not the ideal, the common scenario, the typical scenario, exactly. And that's why I asked you that question, is how can we relieve these people's burdens? How can we, you know, even of this age, honestly, quite honestly, this like 10 spectrum that you're saying, it maybe applies to you, but to be very honest with you, there are a lot of 40, 50, 60-year-olds that are even more chronically stressed now than they were 20, 30. And that's dangerous. Dangerous for your health. It's dangerous for your well-being. It's dangerous for society. And that's something that I would like to address here. Mainly, this is the main issue we want to address here, which is how can we relieve, and since we're men, maybe we can address men. How can we relieve them of this burden to feel like it's okay to relax. It's okay to be authentic. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to lead with love and with care. You're not going to seem weak. How can you advise people like that? Because, I mean, I think if anything, that's probably the most important, valuable thing that you can say today.
It's so true what you have said. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that, you know, peak and drop. I get to hear a lot of stories of very similar people are high flyers and then they just burn out. You know, that burnout phrase is exactly that. You fly high, and then you burn out. You know, my life hasn't been all good, you know, rosy either. And I remember in 2010, 2008, I took my dream job ever. I became the general manager of Mercedes-Benz. And Mercedes-Benz is a brand I have worked for 25 years from day one. And that was the biggest one, right? And that job has turned out to be my worst nightmare.
Wow.
Right? So, and it was just too stressful, too bureaucratic, I mean, I was a general manager, I was a leader, but I wasn't really leading anybody because everything else was leading me.
Yeah.
You know, politics and bureaucracy and whatever you name it. So in 2010, summer, my wife looked at me one day at home in the evening and said, "You're going to quit this job." I said, "Debbie, what do you mean you're going to quit?"
I finally got here.
You know, I worked so hard. She said, "No, you're now losing sleep. You're under stress a lot. That's going to start hurting your health. And there's nothing more important than your health. We have a job, we don't have a job, but you are quitting this. So I went through that, that very ambitious but mind you though, before I took over the next job, first time in my life, I made 2 months holiday in one go because I wanted to have a break. And I hardly remember I had 30 days holiday in one go. And one of the things that, personally that scared me always was being jobless. Being jobless was something that scared me all my life. And I haven't been jobless a single day in my life.
Wow.
I don't know if it is good or bad.
I don't know.
Right?
It's
so because jobless, I was thinking, well, when you lose your job and then you stay home and then you get used to it, staying home and doing activities, and then that's the downfall of all what you want to do and whatever. So phobies, that was my phobia, jobless. So coming back to that stress, that burnout, that was my burnout. That job was my burnout. I took 2 months off. Went to Canada, went to Turkey, traveled around. And so I didn't have a job now. And my new job hadn't started yet. So nobody was calling me. Right? And I realized that actually the stress levels that I reached in my previous job was created more than half of it from me to myself. It wasn't only the organization, it was me in my head, right? Mm-hmm. So I became like, I was talking to myself all the time.
Yeah.
I would go for a run, talking to myself.
Yes.
I would go for a walk with my wife, and then she would say, "What did you say?"
Yeah.
Because I was talking to myself.
I wasn't talking to you.
Sometimes I was loud talking to myself, right? So people always get into situations like this, and I had mine. And the lessons learned was, you really, I mean, it's going to be a cliche saying that, but it is true. You have to really focus on things that are in your hand that you can change and you can do, right? Don't drool about things, about other people, what they do, how they do, and everything else, because you cannot change that. It's not in your hand. Mm-hmm. That's where people get stuck all the time. Mm-hmm. I did. Mm-hmm. Right? Why is he doing that? Mm-hmm. Right? And one of my psychiatrist friend, I didn't go to psychiatrist, a friend of mine who happens to be a psychiatrist, he said, look, when you want to take a look at relationships, please try understanding what the other guy feels or person. Once you know that, then you will feel okay with whatever comes from that side.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
What is his driver? Why is he doing that, right? And people don't do that. People think, oh, he hates me, he doesn't like me, oh, he's grabbing my, and he's creating problems. You don't know, right? And you end up talking to yourself like I did.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be honest, I still do sometimes when the stress levels are high and whatever. As to the leaders, I think, the leadership is lonely. Yes, it is. But to a certain extent. I am very fortunate to have established an organization and team around me that we thrive on transparency and trust. Because transparency creates trust. Because without transparency, you cannot trust somebody. Because you don't know, right?
It's a direct result.
So transparency creates trust. Mutual respect added to it you create great teams. So I click with my teams. I go for a coffee and drinks with my team members individually. And I talk about things. I talk about myself. They talk about themselves. I know my team members' family situations and the kids and the names and some birthdays, if they're very cute, very little ones, because, you know, we are getting to the age of grandfather, grandmother mode. If somebody has got a little bit, right? We have that environment, and the leaders can develop, can lead their teams to have a very healthy, transparent, trust-based relationship.
You know, that's a very valid point, because if you are an empathetic leader, if you are a leader that leads by example, if you're a leader that cares about his team, it's not necessarily just about the people. That also reflects on you and on your stress levels and on your joy within your role, and getting up in the morning when you're 60 and you think, okay, it's time to retire, but still, like you said, wanting to come to a point where, you know, I'm still enjoying my job every day. I wake up in the morning, it's something I do. The only way you can do that is to foster relationships within your teams. And if you don't do that, then that's one way definitely to burn out, because you're going to a job that's so static, and you know, it's 8, 10, 11, 12 hours of our life every day that we're in this environment. And if you know, people throw this cliche word of family, you know, we work as family and stuff like that. But if you really harness that, if you really treat people like their family, then you're definitely going to enjoy your life a lot more at work.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And one other thing that may be helpful is, you know, we all make the mistake, we have got a very important thing to do this week and next week, and those important things never end.
Yeah,
there's no end to it. You know, tomorrow
you jump from one
the
to
most important, right? And then it's the next most important. And you know, to decrease the stress levels, do things with people that you love, right? My daughter, before she went to university, and I heard it from a friend of mine, he has done it, and I thought, what a great idea. I said, Dilla, would you like to have a week with me alone, father-daughter time, and we go climb Kilimanjaro? She said, oh, Baba, I'm in.
Amazing. Right? That just gave me goosebumps.
And I said, okay, because I know she loves animals, right? I said, you know, we climbed the mountain, because she likes doing things with me, and extreme things, you know, climbing, jumping, roller coaster. You know, not everybody likes it in our family, but my daughter does. So we went, and we had an incredible 5 days of climbing Kilimanjaro. And we have slept together, we have talked together, you know. I got sick. I got poisoned, sort of food poisoning on the way climbing and whatever. And she was right there by my side. And then we spent 2 days on safari together. And no one can take this away.
How amazing.
Right? And we have pictures, and we have that. I got a souvenir. I lost my hearing on my right ear.
No way.
Yeah, because of altitude, right? So,
is that permanent?
It's permanent, yeah. A piece of advice, Arsalan: if you have any issues with your hearing, you have 3 days' time. You get it sorted. Otherwise, it becomes permanent, because the blood vessels are so thin, they die. So, but it was worth it. And I think, you know, stress levels always disappear when you start doing something that you really love and look forward and enjoy. And there's a lot of things that you can do, that people can do. It doesn't have to be Kilimanjaro mountain climbing. It could be anything that you enjoy doing with someone that you love. And I think they just pump you up back and sort of, wind you back to zero, and then off you just go again.
Like winding a watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Old school watches.
Fantastic.
I can't think of anything else I'd like to end this episode on. Love cures everything at the end of the day. And that's one of the most valuable advice that we could give out. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And I'm I was really excited about having you here, and I'm very happy that you came. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Arsalan, thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.